they're all like nursing.
Yeah, yeah.
So Chester just took over.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Ellsworth Planning Board to order, May 1st, 2019. First order of, well, let us introduce ourselves first, please.
John Belair?
John Fink,
Rick Lyles?
Roger Lassard?
thank you. First item of business, and second, is the adoption of the minutes from the January 9th meeting. Is someone prepared to make a motion regarding the minutes?
I'll make
So
a motion, we
moved.
adopt the minutes of the January 9th, 2019 meeting.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Next item is election of officers. Anyone have any thoughts?
I nominate you for chairman.
I second that. Or does that even need a second?
Yeah, actually, I think,
Okay.
All in favor?
I'll let you vote for myself. For vice president, John
Oh,
DeLeo.
Vice President.
Vice chair.
Yeah, well,
John DeLeo.
second?
All in favor, please? Now, who wishes to be secretary? Who volunteers?
I'm the new guy, so I can't do that.
Why not?
All you do is sign your name.
So do you write them actually?
Yeah, he writes them, Steve writes them.
And you attest to the fact that they're all perfectly accurate.
But I'm an alternate, so.
Doesn't matter.
I thought he got moved up, Steve.
Well, in that case, Roger,
Well, I'll do it until
until when?
Next year.
I'm here. Well, yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of Roger Lassard for secretary, please? Thank you. All right, now on to the real business. Preliminary plan review for a major subdivision revision to an existing subdivision titled Happy Town Heights, plan file 17-136 for Christopher Durr. The amendment would divide the existing 5.5 acre lot number 4, it's tax map 89 lot 2, at 884 Happy Town Road, into 3 separate lots, 2 of them 1.85 acres each and 1 of them 1.84 acres. The subject land is in the drinking water zone. Is someone representing the applicant, please?
Hello, Christopher Durr.
Yes, go ahead, please. Tell us about what it is that you're intending to do.
Yep, 5.5 acre lot out there on the Happy Town Road. And just looking to, it's a existing subdivision lot. So looking to amend that subdivision and do a new subdivision to have the 3 lots out there.
Okay, it's not a new subdivision, it's an expansion of existing subdivision.
Right, yeah, where it's an existing subdivision
Yeah.
lot. It's an amendment to that, and
Have these passed soil test?
yes.
Any questions from the board? Yeah?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
Lisa, the Public Works Director, had talked about the one lot, perhaps, given the kind of approximate place of the driveway,
Right.
that wouldn't have appropriate site distance or enough site distance.
Right, yep.
And you had said that, well, or somebody had said
Yep.
that you could clear that off or whatever.
Yeah, basically how the lot sits is there's kind of a corner. And
Okay.
by having that far end lot, should be able to clear enough.
Okay. And this was a horizontal site distance thing, right,
Yeah.
as opposed to
Yeah.
up and down.
Yep.
Is there any way that could be even enforced? I mean, if you sell the lots off, to people A, B, and C, what happens to that site distance if the new owner says,
We will require that those driveways to be shown on the plan.
okay,
And so when we issue the permit, we'll make sure those driveways are put in before we actually issue the permit.
fair enough,
When they go in to do the septic, they'll have to put the driveway in, and we can control it that way.
okay. So you're satisfied that it
Yes.
will in fact be controlled or can be controlled?
Now, Steve and I went in and measured it, and the best we could get was 350 feet, but I didn't know how far Mr. Durr was willing to cut back. He
Right.
cuts back a little beyond the elbow of that, he'll be able to get 450 feet.
Okay.
He needs 450 feet.
Okay.
Okay. Is it, I think it's 35.
I think it's
Yeah,
350.
yeah, he's a few feet
Yeah,
off,
the-
but
the
I got the idea.
Yeah.
But I have a question on that, though. I mean, it's lot 4-2 that we're having the problem with the site distance, correct?
4-2.
right, the middle lot.
Yeah,
So clearing the, I'm talking about clearing the vegetation, is that clearing the vegetation on 4-1
Yes.
that
yeah,
we're talking about?
yeah, they're gonna have to, and actually, if.
But
if-
where on that, I mean, if it's vegetation that's outside the right-of-way, I have a problem with that, because how are you gonna maintain that the vegetation outside the right-of-way stays cleared for that 350 feet visibility? I mean, you could, that whoever buys 4-1 could plant a row of trees, could build a building, and if that's blocking that site distance for 4-2, then we've defeated the purpose of having site distance.
May I make a suggestion? Perhaps the applicant would be willing to put a deed restriction on lot 4-1, stating that that area of land will be kept clear.
Right, we could show a buffer, you're right, John, we could have a buffer put on here, and then a deed restriction, a covenant put on the plan that have to follow through on the deed,
Yeah.
showing that that can't be vegetated, we could enforce that.
So you're gonna, you're gonna force the owner of lot 4-1 to keep his vegetation clear, so 4-2 can have site distance.
Yeah. The person buying
Well,
4-1.
Mr. Durr owns that lot right now.
I own everything there right now.
The,
But he doesn't.
So I can make an
You could sell this
easement.
to 3 different
Right,
people.
and have that,
Right,
an easement that's put in place, so that way that can't be developed or, has to be maintained.
it's up to the buyer to determine whether that is onerous or not, and if it is, not buy it.
And we'd like to go out with Mr. Durr and take a look at that. It may end up being the driveway may have to be placed down on 4-3, right at the boundary line to get that site distance.
Right, it'd be a shared driveway.
The shared driveway for 2 and 3.
I would prefer something like that, because, you may very well deal with the site distance being affected during the winter with snowbanks.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, you're talking about right next to the leach field?
Well, that's proposed leach field.
Oh, okay, so they probably have to move it, if you
Yeah,
put a driveway in
yeah.
there.
Actually, the test pits are, you look at the plan, the test pit's actually in back of that leach field. So the leach field probably will have to go, that test pit has to fall within that, where those,
That's actually a design field there and another test pit
Okay,
too. Yeah,
okay.
no, I had 2 done to,
okay.
that way there's 2
okay.
locations.
Yeah,
I have another question.
So,
Not on site distance, but on fire protection, best of my recollection, this is the first time we've seen that a residential lot for a residence, for a house lot, for a single house lot, is now gonna be mandatory to have a sprinkler system. I don't recall
Okay, so.
that before.
Yeah.
This is not the first time. Is the Craig Phyllis subdivision on the Maryville Road,
Well, no, that's next.
those were all decided to put residential sprinklers in them. We've got several that have chosen that option for
Sure,
fire
yeah.
protection, water supply, as far as residential sprinklers.
I mean, that's the, since I've been on, I don't recall the board while I've been on it
Yep.
having a subdivision like this in which single-family houses are mandated to have
Well,
a sprinkler system.
the mandate is not necessarily mandated for residential sprinklers. The fire prevention ordinance allows for 3 separate options for subdivisions. Those options involve putting hydrants out, connecting to city water, or putting underground, 10,000-gallon underground tanks, 1,000-foot drivable distances, or the installation of residential sprinklers. It's up to the developer to choose which fire protection water supply that they wish to put into their subdivision. Candy Way chose a 10,000 gallon underground tank. Bridge Twin has got a 10,000 gallon underground tank. So they initially chose residential, but have chosen to go to the tank. So we've got several out there that have done this in the past, based upon the three options that they have available to them. So it's not just residential sprinklers, we've given them options besides that.
I mean, personally, I think that's a stretch. I mean, if a homeowner wants to put one in, I think it should be his option, instead of mandating that you're requiring him however much it costs. I mean, just like other design on a house, you know, I mean, what's next? Are we gonna mandate that the police department has a burglar alarm in single-family houses, or?
This is as per ordinance though, or
This
something?
is per ordinance. This is something that was adopted several years ago. I think went back as far as 2007. Maybe even, probably 2007, 2008, that those options were available.
No, it
Through
finds
ordinance.
out that it's the developer who makes the determination of what the fire protection is. And the developer could easily choose sprinkler systems. Again, the buyer would know this in advance, and if that were a problem, the buyer wouldn't buy into that subdivision.
Well, it's gonna get to a point that every subdivision in Ellsworth is gonna have a mandatory sprinkler, any new ones.
Well, no.
Well, Unless
they
there's,
always do
unless
the
there's
tank.
public water,
Or on
right?
public water,
Oh,
or
right.
they choose the tank. But it only applies to subdivisions.
It also says if a sprinkler system is to be installed, it shall be monitored by an addressable fire alarm system. What does that mean? Is that tied into a ADT type company?
The 13D system does not need to have a fire alarm system attached to it. Okay? That would be an option that they could choose if they so choose, if they don't want to, but it does not need to have a fire alarm system attached to a 13D system for single-family residents or 1- and 2-family residents.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. And this is just a kind of a nitpicky procedural one. On page 2 of the actual application, under item 4, development information, it says number of existing lots, 1, number of lots to be developed, 2. I thought we were developing 3, or am I supposed to be adding those up?
Right, well, like I said, the one lot exists already, so basically making 2 additional lots.
Is that
Yeah,
reasonable? I mean, is that the way you do that? Okay, works for me. I would have thought it should be 3, but what the hell do I know?
The one
Okay.
existing, creating 2 others.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I'm not gonna worry about it anymore. I've been put in my place, and I'm learning.
Look, you just got the secretary, so count the blessings.
Well, yeah, that's right. I can ask more questions now.
Any further questions? Does the applicant have any questions for us? Sounds like, what are we gonna do to you, or for you?
No, I-
This is a preliminary application. And in this instance, the board is limited to a finding that the application is complete, meaning that all the submission requirements have been met, not that we're approving this on the merits. Does anyone have any questions to completeness? I found nothing.
Yeah, you need to have a public hearing.
Public hearing.
Mhm. Oh, right, I'm sorry. It's been a while. This is a public hearing. Anyone may comment upon this matter. I ask that you be recognized by the chair, then come up to the podium, state your name for the record, and tell us what you wish to say. Does anyone wish to speak? Therefore, hearing none, I close the public hearing. Does anyone wish to make a motion on this matter?
It has to be very formal as listed there, correct?
Yeah, just essentially repeat you just repeat all the language there and
All of it, or just
the whole,
the whole thing?
Yeah.
That's a very long sentence. Okay, I'll do that.
okay, thank you.
Move to approve that the preliminary phase, a plan review for minor subdivision or revision to an existing subdivision titled Happy Town Heights, plan file 17-136 for Christopher Durr. The amendment would divide the existing 5.54 acre lot, Lot 4, tax map 89, Lot 2, at 884 Happy Town Road lot, into 3 separate lots, 2 of them at 1.85 each, and 1 of them at 1.84 acres. And the subject land is in the drinking water zone, although I don't know that I need to say that.
It's good. So the motion then is that this application is complete.
That's correct.
Is there any discussion? Is there a second?
That was seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please?
Aye.
Mr. Durr? You can go home or you can stay for the entertainment.
You lose points if you leave.
You want to make that a motion?
Yeah, no. I'm sorry. I have trouble taking all this seriously.
I know.
It's been a while.
Next item of business, a preliminary plan review for minor subdivision titled Megan C. Fellis subdivision for Megan Fellis. The proposal is to divide a 13.3 acre parcel, tax map 117, lot 20 on the Mariahville Road, into 4 parcels ranging in size from 2.4 to 4.2 acres. The subject property contains land in both the rural and limited residential zones. Is someone representing the applicant, please?
There's Andrew.
Andrew McCullough representing the applicant.
Go ahead.
I think it's a relatively straightforward plan. We are proposing to divide the property as you just summarized into 4 residential lots. Each lot has over 200 feet of frontage along the tie line at the water. And they also meet the minimum road frontage requirement. We did delineate some narrow, if you will, forested freshwater wetlands running essentially down each side of the stream, or not, the minor channels that are coming off the hillside above. And we have shown minimum 25-foot setbacks after consultation with Lori Roberts from Code Enforcement of those setbacks. We have submitted entrance permit applications to the Maine DOT for the driveways. We do not have those approvals yet. Greg Kosabud is in charge of reviewing those, and his father passed away about 2 weeks ago, and so I think that slowed him down a little bit as far as maybe taking care of some of these things. otherwise than that, we are proposing, and you see the language that we have incorporated into the plan, that there will be residential sprinklers in these dwelling units. And the only thing I will say is we may, before final, we may try to give this subdivision a name rather than just the Megan C. Fellis subdivision.
All that matters now is there is a name.
Right.
You can call it almost anything you want later on. Any questions from the board?
Andrew, on Exhibit 1, it's the topo map, basically.
Yes.
I'd like to point out, it's confused me for a while to begin with, but we're not on Beach Hill Pond, are we?
No, we're not on Beach Hill Pond, and it's in the Beach Hill Pond quad, and so that is why the software generated it that way.
Okay.
I can white that out if you'd like, but no, I am aware, yeah.
Let's see, Exhibit,
I assume it's so far away that you can't use that for fire protection.
One comment.
Exhibit 5, if I can find it. Had to do with traffic counts. Well, anyway, it said, there's gonna be 30 trips, now there's 4 lots, but 30 trips, there's gonna be 10 trips per day.
I'll
but that's
check that, that's
additional, or
wrong, it would be 40.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't
I'll
know
correct
if-
that,
If you already kind of took into account that that was 1 lot to begin with, and
Right.
that 10 was already there, or
Yeah.
or it should be 40.
yeah.
Well, I also noticed on your applications, to DOT for the entrance permits,
Yes,
now, Lot 1, and it's listed as 4.2 acres on the permit.
lot 3 is messed up, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay, yep,
you've added 3 and 4.
yes, correct.
I guess that's more of a DOT.
Well,
But it's not really, Lot 3, you have it as 5.6.
right,
which is-
right, it's correct on the subdivision plan, but, it could confuse them as far as, yes,
Because they may end up having you put a driveway
right,
someplace that's not on
Yeah.
that particular lot.
yeah. We had actually reviewed preliminarily 3 out of the 4 driveway locations with DOT, and they had looked at site distance and they were satisfied with them. But I do not have an approval in writing. But yes, no, that could be confusing.
Okay. I guess that was it.
A couple questions. On the soil map and the soil discussion and so forth.
Yes.
I think that you said, I think the maps indicates, and I could be incorrect, is that it's mostly this Lemoyne silt loam, LAB.
That is what the soil maps show.
Okay.
On the site, it's more of a, let's see, how would I characterize it as far as a soil name?
But different than the Lemoyne.
It's a till, it's kind of a mixed origin soil.
Okay.
It's kind of a till over clay, yeah, it's not really a Lemoyne.
Okay.
Yes.
Because, so I wonder why,
Yeah.
what's the purpose of having that in there other than to confuse me?
Well, I mean,
Because it says it's not unsuitable for everything except grazing, which,
Yeah, which, I mean, I mean, I'm sorry, it's not meant to confuse you. The soil maps are broad brush.
Okay.
And they give you just a large scale perspective.
And you did do some test pits anyway?
But I did do test pits on
Okay.
each of the lots, 2
I'm good.
test pits on each lot.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said somewhere, I think, that the required site distance was 435 feet, and you did have that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I believe we have it on lot 4. I mean, I've looked at it myself, and I feel comfortable that we have it, but
Okay.
yes.
Finally, shoot. Bear with me for just a second. Oh, yeah. Under the stormwater management plan,
Yes,
you said it didn't require conformance, blah, blah, blah. There is no new impervious as a result of this proposed plan.
well, I mean,
Clearly incorrect.
from a permit perspective, from a stormwater permit perspective,
Okay?
okay, from a Maine DEP stormwater permit perspective, we are not building any roads that create impervious. There will be impervious for the driveway on each lot, but,
And the house itself.
and the house itself. That's residential development does not trigger the stormwater law,
Okay?
okay, as far as the Maine DEP is concerned. But when I analyzed it for phosphorus export, I figured out an approximate length of driveway, and I think there are assumptions listed in there.
So, yeah.
2,400 square foot house, 900 square foot
And
garage.
for the phosphorus calculation.
Yes, for the
Okay.
phosphorus calculations. So those calculations do take the driveways and that on-site development into account.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are concerned with phosphorus? You're taking that into account?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I have another question, and I don't know if this really relates to you, but they haven't decided as far as the dam down there, and one of the things was to keep the Graham Lake higher, the water line was supposed to be up higher, the high water mark. And I
Well-
don't know if that passed or
Well-
whatever.
Well,
I think it's
they're
still
gonna limit,
negotiation.
they're gonna limit the amount of drawdown,
Okay,
okay?
Yeah.
So the lake level is not gonna be higher than it is at its highest point, but it's not gonna be as low as it is at its lowest point.
okay, so they're gonna take care of the low, but it won't be higher, okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know you know the answer, Andrew.
I believe that Black Bear Partners, or whoever it is now, has incorporated that, they revised that in their license application after the public discussion.
I got one other question for Andrew. I'll get back on the fire protection. And Mike will probably get tired of me beating this horse, but, rule of thumb, I mean, how much does that add to the cost of a house? I mean, it obviously depends on whether it's 1 level, 2 levels,
Right.
square footage.
From what I understand, probably looking at $4,000 or $5,000. Probably, John, no, more?
North of that,
North of
more
that.
like $10,000.
Okay.
For-
Not for open door.
Not for an Uponor type system.
Not for what?
It's a PEX tubing type sprinkler system, where
That's the
you
plastic-
can.
That's the plastic tubing?
Correct, where you can run it, depending on what they have for a well, where they can run it right off of their well pump,
It's part of your domestic water
part of the
supply.
domestic water system.
That
It's a-
still
it-
runs around $10,000 though? No?
No, 2% of the total cost of a house, possibly.
So we're looking at 4 to 5.
And basically, the idea behind that especially with a PEX tubing type system, is that a plumber who has been trained to put those things in can put those in, a regular plumber. You're not required to have sprinkler company put those in. Now, this is 1 and 2 family dwelling. When you start getting into apartments or commercial, it's a totally different system. And then you're required to have a sprinkler company, licensed sprinkler company, put those in. So,
Pat
Let me
Jordan
ask-
just got a price for $10,000 per house. That's why he opted for the tanks instead of the Uponor system. That was having it professionally installed.
Andrew, is that information you could provide at the next meeting? A little more definitive
Yep.
cost estimate?
Mhm.
And I would ask the chair, under subdivision review, I mean, we are allowed to authorize waivers. Are we allowed to authorize waivers for fire protection?
I would say not, because it's under a different ordinance.
Yeah,
that
the
we
fire,
can't.
the fire protection ordinance doesn't fall under chapter 56. It's a standalone ordinance that they have.
Also, if we had the authority to do that and we did it would be subverting the purpose of the ordinance, which requires fire protection of some sort. Again, I would point out that the risk here of requiring sprinkler systems is the applicant's risk. The risk the applicant takes is that no one buys any lots on the subdivision because of whatever additional cost there is.
But there's no way for the applicant to eliminate that cost.
Can choose another method, such as the 10,000 gallon tanks.
Which I'm sure.
But
would be-
no.
But coming to Michael's defense, every applicant that submits an application knows up front. Michael has a form they have to make out that becomes part of this application. They're aware that they're gonna have to do one or the other.
And the other aspect of this is that the requirements that we have in Ellsworth does for the whole community lower fire insurance costs. And that's something that is valuable to citizens of Ellsworth.
Now, I did discuss briefly, even last Friday, about the option, or whether they wanted to consider the option of the underground tank versus the, so, I mean, I can do both of these things again before final. I can try to get some better numbers, yeah, so I did raise the issue again, so.
What an underground tank range in price?
50,000.
How much?
50,000.
So they're gonna charge that anyways, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, you're not saving anything.
Because the cost of that tank is going to be reflected in the cost of the lots. At least I assume it is.
Oh, absolutely. Developer's not gonna pay for it.
No, they can pass it on to the guy who buys the house, right? Or builds the house.
Any further questions from the board? This is a public hearing. Does anyone wish to comment on this matter? Hearing none, close the public hearing. What would the board care to do? Well, we are limited to finding that it is complete or not complete. For that.
Was there anything here that indicated incompleteness?
I did not find anything.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm gonna make a motion that we accept it for preliminary plan review for the minor subdivision titled Megan C. Phillips. Subdivision for Megan Phillips. Is it Phillips?
Phyllis.
Bellis.
Phillips. Proposal is to divide a 13.3 acre parcel on tax map 117, lot 20, on the Mariahville Road in 4 parcels ranging in size from 2.4 to 4.2 acres. Subject property contains land in both the rural and limited residential areas.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, please, for completeness?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item of business is a preliminary plan for a major new site development and major subdivision titled Denver Way Echo Homes for Jonathan Biggs. The proposal is to build 16 single-family, two-bedroom homes on an 8.5 acre parcel of land, tax map 58, lot 19-3 on Denver Way off the Bangor Road. Subject land is in the urban zone. Someone representing the applicant, please.
Chip Haskell, I'm with CES Engineers, representing Stone Park Properties tonight for the next 2 projects. First one here is Denver Way Eco Homes. For this development, we've got a, I believe, 8.5 acre parcel. Right now, we're proposing 15 single-family houses on this parcel. We'll be extending the existing Denver Way to sort of bisect that parcel. And I don't know if any of you are looking at the plans right now, but the houses sort of are sprinkled out through that development. We'll be using private water, private sewer for this development, as public utilities are not available on the Bangor Road at that location. We'll be installing 2 septic fields for this development. One in the very eastern corner of the site, and one sort of in the middle area there. We'll also be installing 1 or multiple wells to provide adequate water to all of these units. To get right to the fire protection question, we will be doing a underground tank for this one. Again, with that number of units, that was the most economical choice. That's located in a spot, working with Mike there, to keep that within the required distance from all the development that we're doing out there. Let's see, what else? Like I said, these are all, what are the dimensions of these, John, these buildings? 30 by 60?
36 deep and 56 wide.
Okay. Like I said, single-family, residential. The intent of these is for Stone Park Properties to retain ownership, rent these out over time. So no sale, no subdivision. It'll be I guess one development in and of itself. However, that's classified by the city.
It is a subdivision of use, however.
Yes.
Correct. Correct.
So it falls under subdivision.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah. Misnomer a little bit. Let's see. I think, we get into permitting a little bit. DEP, we do have more than an acre of new impervious area. So that will require what's called a state stormwater permit with the DEP. The requirements of that permit are very similar to what we have to do for the city's stormwater requirements in this case. Actually, the cities are a little bit more stringent for this one. So what we're doing here will be submitted to the DEP as well for that permit, which we would not have in hand prior to approval of this from the city. In the past, that's been a conditional approval. For stormwater treatment, we're doing a couple of proprietary treatment devices that you'll see on the plans. Runoff all goes to those. There's detention above those to slow that flow down before it leaves the property. I think that's about it. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
We're treating this as a commercial, right? Even though it's single families,
Yes.
homes.
We're gonna consider it multifamily.
Yeah, so we're thinking of it as commercial.
Correct.
We're treating it as a commercial. So, I didn't see any lighting information in here. There might have been, but
That was I don't know if that got to them or not, but we were working on that. I think we have it done now.
Correct.
Okay, so
We've done
that's
that, it's just not available for this.
Okay,
this-
so that's
this
one
plan.
thing. for
Correct.
Completeness that's missing.
So, I don't know how you guys want to handle that, I guess. I mean, initially, we were told we didn't need it,
It's how
but
we want to handle it.
I understand. Touche. So, and yeah, we haven't submitted that yet.
Well, the
to you.
confusion came is that the initial assumption was gonna be that they were just gonna have lights over the doors.
Yeah.
But then there was a street light added. So we wanted to know what the effect of that
Yeah.
light was gonna be. And I understand they're all gonna be LED, but what has happened in the past, plans are approved, there's light poles and lights put in, and the developers sometimes aren't as astute as Mr. Bates, and they don't come to all the meetings. And then when we show up, wow, I don't wanna put that in, I didn't budget for that. So we're gonna make sure everyone's on board. Mr. Bates is our guinea pig tonight.
And because it's in the urban area, you have to worry about the light, noise, and
Sure.
darkness.
Yeah, what got us early on is we weren't initially thinking this was going to be a commercial multifamily designation.
Right,
So we were thinking it was going to be just a residential, which didn't require the lighting plan, so that was our mistake. So we do have that done, it's just not submitted as part of this.
Now, on the TRT or someplace, I thought, it's gonna be what? The dwellings are gonna be 7 feet apart?
Excuse me?
The houses are gonna be 7 feet apart?
I believe
And is
the,
that eve or wall? That question was asked before.
correct, yeah, I think there's a dimension on this somewhere, we will make that more clear in subsequent plans, but I think we have a dimension of 13 feet minimum. And my understanding, yeah, right there, that's wall to wall. So
Okay,
eve
wall to
eve to eve would be 10 feet.
Oh, okay. Eve to eve, all right.
Me?
Sure.
Okay, a couple things. This is are we asking here for this to be a commercial zone?
No,
No.
Okay, just a
It-
commercial use
Yeah,
in the urban zone,
it's a gray area.
or a gray
For
area.
Mike
so-
and I, we're still looking at this as residential, because that's what the structures are.
Right,
But because of the footprint, it kind of falls, ordinance somewhat under the commercial.
okay,
So we're going with what the ordinance kind of
Okay.
dictates as a commercial
okay.
development.
So my real question was, there's no zoning changes being
No,
requested
no,
at
no,
all?
no.
Okay,
But
Okay.
it falls on the major conditional use and subdivision. because-
fine.
And I think a lot of it was because Mr. Bates was retaining ownership of all the buildings and not selling
selling
each
them off,
individual
right.
one.
Right, and you're still doing that, right?
Oh,
Is this
yeah.
gonna be like an Airbnb, like you've been
No.
doing before?
Not Airbnb, no, but there'd be long-term rentals.
Oh, but you're not gonna sell houses?
No,
No, right.
no.
We just point out in the agenda, we continue to say 16 units, and I think we're really only talking 15.
It's
right?
15.
No, it's 15 here.
I'm sorry, no, in the agenda it says 16.
Yeah, that's a
The real
carryover.
15.
That was a carryover from before the TRT, I think it had to be placed like that when we
Okay,
submitted.
correct.
So after the TRT meeting, we had to move some things around and we had to drop a unit to 15.
On the next agenda, it'll say 15.
Well, I wouldn't bother with that. There seems to be an error in a one of the deeds there. It says County of Maine, but it's been recorded now, so it's not really on you. It's just
Yeah,
strange.
yeah.
Let me see here. 15 or 16. Okay, you mentioned the lighting. In terms of the traffic narrative, okay?
Yep.
I understand that this is really a low number of trips. I have no problem with that. But I guess the issue, though, is left turns in and out of this driveway onto 1A, which can be a real issue at various times of the year, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
Did you do any analysis of that? Other than to say, gee, we got like 10 trips or whatever?
From what perspective, I guess? What would you? I mean,
Well, I mean, the most sophisticated thing would be to analyze it as a unsignalized intersection and see if there's any backups that occur either on the site or getting into the site.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't go to that level of detail, I guess only because it wasn't required by the city or DOT. We'll be using the existing entrance that's already permitted through their driveway entrance permit through the DOT.
Okay.
We'll be modifying that permit with the DOT, so we've spoken with them. We'll be submitting a revised entrance plan.
Okay, and it's their road, so.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what will be reflected in that is a very similar narrative to what we've submitted for you, which is the estimate of the additional trips.
Yep.
And when you look at what's required to trip a traffic movement permit is 100 trips per hour. The combination of the existing 9-unit plus this development is
That doesn't do that.
well below that, exactly. Yep.
You're not having problems with the 9 units now, right?
Not at all,
For traffic?
no.
Because I live on 180 and it's a pain.
Yeah.
But it's got the third lane, so that
Sure.
helps.
Yep.
No, we have no issues there.
Yeah, okay. You're far enough away
Yeah.
from traffic, okay.
And there's no sight distance issue at that.
No, sir.
I mean, I'm not familiar with that particular intersection, but.
No, again, it's.
I think that's taken care of with the state.
Yeah, because that's an existing entrance, it's already got got the required site distance for that, so, yep.
Fair enough?
Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, well, I picked up on the, kind of throughout all the paperwork, the difference between 15, 16, I think even one place it talked about 17.
Okay.
Has a little bit of effect on the peak trip hours, but, I mean,
Gotcha.
obviously nothing to worry about. Again, to an intersection, I'm not too enthused with that intersection. That was approved for the prior plan, to tell you the truth, where it comes out at an angle. I mean, I'm kind of surprised. I assume Bruce Mattson was the one who approved it. I wasn't on this approval prior to that. I'm kind of surprised he approved it to come out at that angle instead of coming out at a
Sure.
right angle.
What we are doing is, as you may know, trying to turn right into that driveway. That sort of apron didn't get paved initially, so that's proposed as part of this as well, which would sort of kind of, almost give you that impression that it's kind of angling more at a 90-degree angle towards Route 1.
I mean, I realize according to the map, there's a utility pole just to the south of the
Correct.
intersection. Maybe that had something to do with the original layout.
Yeah.
But I guess on C-101, I mean, I'd like to at least be able to see that whole intersection, whether it's just like on another sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Just because I think that, as far as I'm concerned, that's an integral part of anything that I look at.
Right. No, that's a good point. And actually, as coming out of our TRT meeting, we did provide us a different site plan, or have created one that does show that intersection up close for that purpose, because we will have to show that to DOT as well.
Okay.
So,
I mean, any of your discussions with DOT and the city to straighten out that intersection I would love. I mean, I realize your driveway's in place now, Jonathan.
Right. I would love to, in discussions with DOT, widen that out and of course, increase that apron there to make it easier to pull in and out.
I mean, Chip, I think in order to get that at a right angle, you'd have to go to the south of utility pole,
potentially, either that or you could swing up, there's a,
or kind of up farther.
yeah, maybe you can kind of start earlier. We can look into it. I think there's some, even just by paving that apron, you're gonna allow people to get more in that right angle position, as they're ready to pull out. Whereas right now, they can't get there because they're cutting off the entire driveway to do that, so.
For someone who, I live off Route 1A on a Red Bridge Road. And
Yep.
It's always a challenge.
Sure.
To watch in front of you and watch behind you.
A lot of accidents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actions, one minute.
You have no problems, Mike, with turning around for the fire engines or anything?
They have shown, they've actually supplied us with a turning template, and a backing template in here. The only issues that we have are basically the radius for those turns are required to be 35 foot by ordinance, and we don't have that yet. We're still working on that with them. But those, if you look at your plans, I trust you have that. You can kind of see the fire engines as far as backing and travel within the spurs as well as all the way down the end of Denver Way. The T-turn down there, it kind of shows how that actually works, so. We just need to work with them a little bit on the radiuses for those corners.
And those will show on the final plan.
That's
Correct.
Now, Jonathan, you gave us these little brochures. Were you gonna provide, kind of conceptual plans of the interior and exterior of these buildings?
Further than that? Further than the,
Just a drawing,
yeah, I mean, well, we have that up there that shows the exterior and then the interior dimensions.
I
I
mean,
don't
even
know
if it's
what
just
further-
a 8x11 sheet of paper.
Blow that up essentially?
I mean, yeah, something I could put
Yeah.
in this book.
Yeah, yeah, sure, yeah, that's no problem. I don't intend on furnishing them or anything like that, if that's what you're asking, so that basically, you know, and the interior design basically comes out of my head, so I don't know. I can't pin that down right now.
So wasn't there
It's in your
somewhere
head
in
than
the,
somewhere else.
in this plans, I thought this was supposed to be furnished furnished houses.
No,
No.
no, not these ones, Jefferson, the
Jefferson.
next one is furnished.
That's why we're getting confused.
Um,
Now, the other thing is,
Oh, it does say.
according to our ordinance, they get a freebie for the garages, that's 2 parking spots, right? That counts for 2 parking spots. So I think we're okay with parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, you are right, there is a reference to that on the application, I'll
It does
remove
say on
that.
That is furnished?
Yes,
No, it's not.
it won't be, but it does say that. I'll save you the time to look for it.
I appreciate that.
These are targeting more the baby boomers who are downsizing, so most of the time they have acquired quite a bit of furnishing,
Okay.
so. And they want to bring
Yes,
it with
look at
them.
my garage.
Yeah.
Right.
Will this be maintained as a private road, or your plans?
Yeah.
I noticed on the TRT notes, down at the bottom of one dated April 24th, last paragraph, advisory question for applicant about compatibility of whatever drinking water infrastructure put in relation to city's water supply system, if it has ever extended that far. I mean, is there, do you have to put in equipment that the city wants you to put in that you might never use?
No, I think it was just a helpful tip, I guess, from the water department. What we, just kind of suggesting it, but as we sort of talked through it further in the TRT meeting, there's really nothing different from what we would put in for his site than what the city would require if it were ever to be taken over.
Correct.
So.
It was basically just a point of discussion and as a comment from the city water staff.
Even though in some places it refers to your water supply as a public, it's not public in that the city,
Correct, it won't be a public utility, but from the state's perspective, it's going to be a public water supply that needs to be, monitored and tested and all that.
It's based on the number of units that are served. It
That's
has
correct.
nothing to do with the public access to it.
right. I would note on your drawing, well, it's from American Concrete Industries. You can see 1.0. I guess it's in the back of the application.
Yeah,
It has to do with that 10,000 gallon water tank.
correct.
Probably not that makes a difference, but this was for Bridge Twin. According to this, it's for Bridge Twin.
Yeah, I supplied that to them from that project so that they had something to go by.
Right.
And we were gonna make sure that by the final, that would be changed to indicate Denver Way. So it's the same tank, same
Right.
company,
Okay.
same configuration, it's just, they needed to have something in there for that.
Now, I mean, there is a fire hydrant within proximity of but it's not,
No,
It has
not
to be
really.
within
How
500
far is
feet.
that hydrant?
it's down by,
More than 1,000
It's
feet.
more than 1,000 feet down the road from
Unfortunately.
the entrance of Denver Way. We've discussed that. several times to see
We'd
what we
love
could
to
do.
see the city run the water up the road. That would be
There you go.
So,
not gonna happen.
it's well
Fire
over,
truck
well over
pumping.
1,000 feet.
The fire truck's pumping from that hydrant to this,
No, that's why we have the underground tank. That, we're using that 10,000 gallon tank as a primary protection for water supply for that subdivision. If you take into account the travel distance from the intersection of Denver Way and Bangor Road to the furthest point in that, you're looking at well over 3,000 feet from the closest hydrant. So,
You get that in the budget, right?
yeah.
The unfortunate part is that we have a fire department connection on the end of the 9 unit that has more than enough.
Well, it's not a fire department connection, and we won't get into that, but it's basically.
the 9 unit is served by sprinklers.
Yes, that was $100,000. That's awesome.
I think that was it. One other question, it's more to city staff, but in all the technical review notes for this one and the next subdivision, am I reading this right that nobody was at these meetings from the police department to look at these plans?
I believe that Glenn had a scheduling conflict on both. I don't.
Both the TRT and the pre-TRT?
Because the 2 days are back to back. I don't remember, or he was on vacation, and there was an issue where he was not able to be there. But he was, I mean, the materials were provided to him, but he was not able to be there.
I'm good.
Any other questions? Any member of the public wish to comment on this matter? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. What would the board like to do?
It's his turn.
I don't think we work that way.
Oh, no?
No.
I'll make the motion that we approve the preliminary plan review for a major use site development and major subdivision titled Denver Way Eco Homes for Jonathan Bates. The proposal is to build 15 single-family, two-bedroom homes on an 8.5 acre parcel of land, tax map 58, lot 19-3, on Denver Way off of the Bangor Road. Subject land is in the urban zone, and the motion is that application is complete.
No, it's not complete, because we have to state that the lighting has to be in there.
Oh, right. Yes.
So the lighting plan will get in there.
It will be, yeah, we have it, yes.
So
Okay.
that should be then that the application is complete, save for the lighting plan, which will be in the final.
Correct.
Okay.
It has been submitted to the city, but it did not get to us. So, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please?
Aye.
Thank you. So the next item of business is preliminary plan for a major use site development and major subdivision titled Jefferson Lux Townhouses for Ruger Properties LLC. The proposal is to build 4 three-story multifamily housing buildings with a total of 45 residential units on a 1.82 acre parcel, tax map 16 lot 3, off Good Stuff Way, located off of the Beachland Road. The subject land is in the commercial zone. Someone represents the applicant.
Chip Haskell with CES, representing Stone Park Properties. As you said, John, this is a 4-building, 12-unit per building, proposed development on a 1.82 acre parcel. It's right at the corner of High Street and Beachland Road, behind the Global Beverage Warehouse and Acadia Provisions. These are the identical buildings to what some of you may remember as Washington Lux, out on Washington Street. So some of you are probably familiar with that building, but these will be very similar. Some of these buildings will let's see, two of them are, one is a 12 unit and the other three are 11 unit buildings. The total 45. Like the last application, this site will also require a state stormwater permit because we will have an excess of 1 acre of new impervious area. This site will be treated by city water and sewer. There's currently a water line coming from Beachland Avenue that we'll be upsizing to provide access to this site. I'll be installing a new hydrant at the corner of what will become Jefferson Way to service this new facility. For sewer, there's a force main that's existing on what is Good Stuff Way coming from High Street. We'll be tying into that and going down to a proposed pump station to be taken over by the city at the rear of the site. For stormwater, we proposed a underdrain soil filter on the far, I guess, southwestern corner of the site. That's providing our stormwater treatment and flooding control for this facility. Can't think if there's anything else. We have provided a lighting plan for this one. Fire protection, we'll hit that one as well again. This will be very similar to Washington Lux, like we said. It's that same sort of process for this one. So all sprinkled and all that. So anything you'd like to add, John, or is that pretty much it? Okay.
Question, Good Stuff Way is City Street?
Currently not.
Then how do you have an agreement to enter into that?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Is that provided in the application?
I think it was in the deed, actually,
Yeah.
to purchase the land.
Okay.
Yeah, there's several covenants for easements for water and sewer on that, plus the right of way to get into the property.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. So the whole site is 1.82 acres, right?
That's correct.
Correct? So that's like 79,000 square feet? Yes, say yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'll take your word for it.
Thank you. Take my calculator's word.
There you go.
And down here in the actual application, the permit application, it says that the proposed impervious surface area is 71,000, almost 72,000,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
So the ordinance says that you are supposed to have something like 75%, no more than 75% impervious materials, impervious part of the site. In other words, there's supposed to be some open space.
Yep.
And you're at like 90%?
I'll have to check that. I mean, we've got, we've done the calculations, at least on the plans here, where we've had our lot size we're saying is 83,136. I'll have to check that, I guess.
Be my guest.
But yeah, I guess we'll have to check into those numbers.
So I'm not exactly sure what happens if, if that's really the case, if the numbers in the application are correct, then
Sure.
you're way over the percentage that's allowable under a commercial zone.
Sure.
And I don't have any idea what the impact of that is.
But for that is the next meeting.
Yeah, well.
Since the data is, since data is here,
Yes,
it counts toward completeness.
yeah,
We're not
okay.
judging whether the data is accurate.
I was judging, but he's not. And how does, there's also in the commercial zone, there's supposed to be a certain amount of frontage on a street, okay? And if it wasn't for Good Stuff Way, this would be a landlocked piece of land, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
When these two separate parcels were separated by Dudley Gray, this was a shared right-of-way existing on this deed as well as this one.
Okay, I guess my basic question is, does Good Stuff Way count as a frontage, as something you can have frontage on for this new development?
I guess
Because if
that's
it
what you're-
doesn't, then you
I would
got
have to hope
another.
so.
I believe it does. I think the definition refers to a road or right-of-way.
Okay,
So as long as they have a right-of-way or frontage on Good Stuff Way.
and that is a designated right-of-way?
Yeah.
That is, has an easement or whatever?
Right.
what the city may wish to do is check over the ordinances and see if there are instances where a landlocked piece, which is off a major road, would be impossible to develop under these terms in the commercial zone. And if so, make an exception for that, where you don't have a road to have your frontage. But we don't need that dealt with today.
Okay.
But it's a not insignificant question. The next thing is that on the site plan review application, the narrative that goes with that, and this is just a correction, it says it's fronting on Beachland Road, which it's not.
Correct, yep.
The traffic narrative, okay, it's actually called traffic narrative, I guess. You go through some calculations there that you claim are from the ITE trip generation manual, I believe, okay?
Yep.
And you come up with a number, which is standard procedure. My question has to do, though, with typically there's more than one thing that you can measure. In other words, there's a trip generation rate based on the number of units, trip generation rate based on the square footage, and probably some other ones,
Sure.
okay? So my question is, why did you pick the one you picked?
This was, we met
Are we most comfortable with that, or is
Yeah, I
it the
think-
lowest number, for example?
No, we worked closely with Bruce Madsen at the DOT early on with this one.
Okay.
We sat down and looked at this and looked at the greater area and came up with a
That you would use,
analysis method, that he agreed with, and, we went from there, provided the calculations. We're working on this traffic analysis report, which will go to Bruce Madsen.
but that's Route 3, that's with Route 3 in Beachland, right?
I guess, in conjunction with our counts. He takes the counts and the report that we provide in conjunction with the calculation.
But fundamentally, Good Stuff Way, which is a name that I just can't get past.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, the Good Stuff Way, which with Beachland is is an unsignalized intersection.
That's correct.
That may well be impacted, or vice versa, by the Route 3 intersection. So for example, if you have cars that are queuing back from Route 3, they're gonna block your entrance. And you may or may not be able to turn out of it, okay?
Sure.
And my understanding was that one of the key clienteles for this would be folks at Jack's, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean,
And
yeah,
so
for the most
the
part.
people are gonna wanna come out and turn left and then make an immediate right, and that could be a problem, I would think. So.
Potentially.
Just as a, I don't know that, I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that the analysis of only that Route 3 and Beachland thing is adequate. I think you need to do something with
Sure.
the, and I'm not sure I can require you to do that, but if I could, I would.
Or we will specifically look at that next time.
Oh, yeah, no, and that's fine too, sure, yeah.
We're giving you guys a heads up.
Yeah, so that's about that. And then again, what the path is for making a left out of Good Stuff onto Beachland and then a right onto Kingsland Crossing. I mean, that's a kind of a dicey turn, especially at rush hour. I would
Right.
think. And especially coming back the other way. You kind of turn left out of Kingsland
Sure.
onto Beachland and then into the site.
So what we have here, and this may help, I guess, but again, similar to the last application, Good Stuff Way currently has an entrance permit from the DOT on Beachland and on Route 1.
Sure,
I'm sorry, Route 3, rather.
close enough.
So what we have to do is stay under that 100 trips per hour number, again, like you said, which we would be doing with this application. So
And choosing the trip generation rate appropriately, I'll bet.
hand in hand with Bruce Madsen, I will add. But point taken. Either way, those two entrances get analyzed by DOT, and that's part of the overall sort of traffic network.
Yeah,
that he
but
is looking at.
the earlier analysis of Good Stuff and Beachland, really didn't include any consideration of all these housing units that are there.
No, so that's what we are going back to Bruce
Okay.
Madsen for now. And
No, and I get that. I mean,
Yeah.
all I'm saying is be comprehensive
Yeah.
with respect to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so our,
That
our
entrance.
our analysis would amend essentially what was studied before.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're certainly welcome. Um, Okay, and we're saying that we count the frontage on good stuff as frontage.
Yes, because we did check the definition, and it's frontage on a right-of-way of a street.
Okay,
This is a private street, but it still is a street.
okay. And that just makes that little
makes
kind of a
that
youth
little-
thing, yeah, okay.
Is it gonna stay a private street?
Yes.
Yeah.
Somewhere down, I'm moving off of that, which is my favorite area, actually, but, to the exterior lighting thing, it says that there is a lighting plan.
Yes,
Yes, there should be.
Did we have a lighting plan
Yes,
in there?
that's right.
Was it?
Was it in there?
right here.
Oh, it was with these.
Sorry.
It's C-102.
I must have overlooked that.
Yep.
I guess the other thing that I have as a general comment is that there appear to be no sidewalks within the development whatsoever, and there are no sidewalks going out to beachland. In spite of the fact that, Jack's arguably is within walking distance. If you had, and I realize that your target demographic probably does not have children, but if they have children, the bus stop is going to be out and on Beachland, the school bus stop.
Yep.
And there are literally no sidewalks
Right.
along there.
Oh,
So-
Go ahead.
We discussed that through our earlier sort of pre-application meetings with the city, and it's something that we do likely intend to install along what is now Good Stuff Way, because that sort of, walkability score, I guess, is something that's very desirable in that area. It's not something, though, that we are required to do by the ordinance, so we didn't feel it was correct to show it on the plan at this point in time, but it is something that they would intend to do.
And if you are going to do that, it would be helpful to have that on the final.
In discussions with the city, it was something that we could make a decision on later as well, where it's a private road.
That in and of
So-
itself didn't require site plan review, so it just didn't make sense to include it at this point.
Right,
And if you put it on paper, then you're committed.
correct.
Precisely.
Okay. I'm good.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll get back on the trips. Well, first of all, under the activity description, which is 3.1, refers to it that could be attracted to short-term vacation renters. So, are we
Does
getting
that say
into
that
a-
still?
Oh, what's that? 3.1, under the site plan review application activity description?
That's a carryover as well, my apologies.
Our shortest term lease would be 6 months,
Okay.
so that's definitely no vacation. Well, maybe. Someone's very fortunate.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were getting into a motel, but.
No,
No,
okay.
no, that, I thought I removed that.
Okay. But a little bit underneath that, under project overview, you talk about the peak time of travel will be during the AM, which will result in 99 additional trips during the peak hour. But yet on 4.1, second paragraph, last couple of sentences, the AM peak hour will be 22.5 trips, rounded to 23, and the PM peak hour is 27 trips.
Correct.
Peak hour.
So, that's where we're gonna get into the weeds a little bit. The existing, because this was all sort of done as one big development, so because the reason we have to go to DOT at all for this, as you said, the trips that we calculated for what's here are only like 22 trips per hour for the AM peak. So that in and of itself is a relatively small generator. Where this all sort of got hung up is that the lot that Mr. Bates purchased is also tied in with the Acadia Provisions and Global Beverage Warehouse. So when that got subdivided, that traffic movement permit, or I shouldn't say traffic movement permit, but the entrance permit that whole parcel applied for stuck with and applies now to what will become Jefferson Locks. Because of that, we have to provide the traffic analysis, and we have to add our trips to what's existing. or what was calculated to be existing in that original. So what you're seeing here is we had 22. What was calculated at that point was the 77 in the AM from these two, the existing uses.
The other businesses.
So totaling 99.
Our only impact is 22, but by common scheme of development, we have to pick up the trips
Correct.
generated by the additional.
And then, somebody talking about, you gotta work with Bruce Mattson and the entrance, out on the Route 3 was designed, and it references that it's supposed to be a right in, right out. Right in, right outs don't generally work as right in, right outs.
The one on High Street, you're saying?
Yes.
That does have a really tall, sort of triangular island there that you're not.
I wouldn't try and go with.
Yeah, that would hurt turning left.
Okay. Do you think there's a sufficient amount of snow storage? I mean, it's kind of small. Obviously, you think there's sufficient snow storage showed on the map?
Yeah, I mean, there may be other areas that we end up storing snow, but there's plenty of other area. What we sort of, one of the areas we initially hatched as snow storage was, I guess, the northern boundary on that longer stretch there. Though we had to provide landscaping screening there. The intent there would be to use existing vegetation wherever possible, but if we have to supplement that, then we certainly would. I just didn't want to show snow storage there if I knew I had to plant shrubs right at the moment, so.
Just as a point of interest, how do you handle the plowing, just of, keeping good stuff way clear so that so the new guys, have a way in and out easily? I mean,
Yeah,
I realize it's the Global Beverages and Katie Provisions
Yep.
advantage to have that plowed too, but
Sure. Yeah, so I know the owner of that lot.
that's
so
what I heard.
we're gonna share the expense since we own the road together. In the
Okay.
first order of business, we're gonna change the name and then we'll,
I heard that too.
so, we probably are gonna sub that out to Fowler, Perry Fowler.
Okay, so there is a shared plan of some sort to
Oh, yeah.
actually do that, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious, one of the buildings is 12 units and the other 3 are 11.
Yeah.
So what are you doing with the extra space and the other, a bigger apartment or?
I think right now, we're talking a bigger apartment or possibly a fitness facility in one of the lower units, but more than likely we'll marry 2 of the quote-unquote units together and make a larger unit.
I'm done.
This is a public hearing. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this matter? Hearing none, close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
I may be out of line, but we have a lot of concerns with traffic and everything.
Excuse me?
We have a lot of concerns with traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a site visit would be to our advantage for the next meeting.
Let's deal with the completeness.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll go back to that.
Yeah, but, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, we'll go back before we adjourn, yeah, okay.
Yeah. By not adjourning, we could stay here all night.
No, we have to quit by 10.
9:30, 8:30,
9:30.
9:30.
Okay, is there a motion regarding this matter?
Sure, I'll make a motion that the preliminary plan review for a major use site development and major subdivision titled Jefferson Lux Townhomes for Ruger Properties LLC. The proposals to build a 4 3-story multifamily housing units building with a total of 45 residential units on a 1.82 acre parcel, tax map 16, lot 3, off of currently called Good Stuff Way, located off of Beachland Road. The subject land is the commercial zone, and what I'm saying is that the
Application is complete.
application is
Right.
complete. I took the words right out of my mouth.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please? Thank you.
Aye.
Now, we can deal with the site visit.
Right, I mean, that whole corner's getting pretty populated. And I think it might be advantageous for us before the
Okay.
final, that we go have a site visit.
Mr. Fuller,
Yeah.
could you coordinate that with the applicant and the board members?
That's does the board want to?
Have a site visit,
That's, I mean,
yes.
and one of the primary things, I guess, is traffic. you know.
Okay.
So let's
And
go
probably,
during,
you know, you
let's
could
go
do it-
during a peak hour then.
Yeah,
Is it possible could we meet with Bruce Mattson to kind of determine that
Sure.
as well as?
whoever you want.
If you can arrange that,
Yeah.
Or,
So do we want to have a meeting with Bruce Mattson on the site? Is that what you're saying?
well,
no, probably not.
we just want a site visit.
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. I think let's, and can we
We
do
might
that?
have a
If
question
you
about
wish-
stormwater.
If you
things
wish to
like
make
that.
it more complicated.
I'd rather not, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we do that, I guess, same night as the planning board meeting, or,
It wouldn't be night, it would have to be during the day.
well, prior to
Yeah.
it, I guess. I didn't know if we could do it.
Depends,
We can planning board, no, we can't because it's a public meeting.
you know,
It probably would be better to have her on a different day.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just in case, arrange that day, you've got no chance to arrange a makeup day.
Okay.
I mean, whoever you see apropos to go, you know.
Yep. So very likely, we'll be having the opinion of Bruce Mattson here in the next
Well,
couple of weeks.
That and probably stormwater management might be a topic. that
Okay.
We'll, next time too.
Sure. Yeah, I can tell you the initial sort of thoughts from Bruce Mattson were that likely what may be required, if anything, at that intersection would be what's called a protected left turn. So right now, there's, at that intersection, if you can visualize it, there's just a green arrow or a red arrow
Right.
or yellow.
That's what we'd like to see. Yeah.
Well, that's what there is right now.
And you said there's that hump in the road or where
So-
they can't make a turn.
So right now, all there is are arrows allowing you to take a left.
Okay.
Onto
Yeah, right,
Beechwood.
right.
What Bruce Mattson said, if anything, what he may require
Mm-hmm.
would be to install what's called a protected permitted left turn, meaning that you see like the signs, you know, when you just have a green ball, but you're allowed to turn left as long as you're yielding to oncoming traffic. So what that would do is you have a time where you're protected with
Yeah.
that green arrow, but you also have a time when you're permitted, meaning you can turn left as long as you're yielding to oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
So you see those in a few places. But what that does is help take down the queue, essentially, on Route 3, allows 3 or 4 more cars to come through during that movement.
And maybe like around 3, 4 o'clock might be a good time to go? Where there's heavy traffic. Steve? We're scheduling it?
Yeah, I will coordinate with,
Yeah.
with Chip and John.
Steve will work on that.
Yes.
Yes, people work on it.
Absolutely.
No, because the traffic flow's gonna be heavier at that time.
Find out when the Jack's shift changes.
No, I think they're flex. I think they're flex hours,
Are they?
I think. The bank's gonna be there too, you know. They're gonna be open, and, you know, it's getting pretty crowded there, so, traffic-wise.
Okay, so we have, the site visit will be arranged,
Yes.
and we will assume here on the board that it will be convenient for all of us.
Yeah. Or if
Don't
you
wish
can't-
to put complications.
Yeah.
Understand.
Good luck with that.
Are there any Mylars that were not signed?
No, you were all caught up.
In that case, a motion for adjournment is.
So moved.
All in favor, please?